There are a couple different ways to pipe 3D roses. You will first need, of course, a piping nail. You want to use a couple different sizes depending on the size of your rose, your finished rose. You also would like a lifter so you can lift that rose off and onto your cake. I like to use Hershey's Kisses and little gumdrops, or you can also create a mound with your frosting. Right here I have filled up my bag with frosting and I'm using a rose tip. This is a Wilton 127, I believe. And of course you put it in your hand like you do all the other piping. Now the tip looks like a teardrop. You want to keep the larger side of the tip down and the narrow side of the tip up towards you. Okay. Put a little bit of frosting on your nail, and this time I'm going to use a Hershey's Kiss, and that's going to be my cone. And this is where I'm going to start piping my frosting onto this cone. You see the cone is adhered in place by my frosting. Okay, next, squeeze out a ribbon of frosting and turn the nail at the same time, holding it between your thumb and forefinger. And we're going to continue to cover the base of our Hershey's Kiss, which is our cone, in more of the icing, just so that our petals can adhere to something sticky. Don't have to be too perfect, just enough for it to adhere. Now I'm going to go back up to the top again, and I'm going to angle my tip, and I'm going to make another sweep around the very top. This creates our rosebud. And now we're going to apply our petals, starting at just right below that tip. We're going to start piping our petals. You notice I don't push the piping tip into the frosting. I kind of lay it to the side, and naturally it's going to come up and come down as you turn it. Look, there's a really nice rosebud there. You go halfway down and you're going to do the same thing again, but you're going to start angling your tip back towards you just a bit. If you also notice, I overlap my petals. I start about the middle of the previous petal and start piping. You really want to make it look like a real rose, and the petals are wrapped within each other. Now if you notice, each tier of petals are odd numbered, and that just seems to be more pleasing. In nature, you will notice that things are more pleasing to the eye if they come in an odd number. So I'm going to put 5 petals around for my second tier. The tip of my pastry tip is now more straight up and down or perpendicular to what I did for the first 3. If you want to make the rose even fuller, to make it like it's in full bloom, you would tip it away from your rose even more, and that will lay those petals out. So, okay, the third row, you're going to do about 7 petals. If you need to fit in another petal to make it look symmetrical, do it. It's not a crime if you put in 8 as opposed to 7. Okay. As you can see, I have made smaller roses. I'm going to do the same thing like I did with my Hershey's Kiss, except I'm going to use a small gumdrop. You see the little tiny roses to the left? I'm going to use a smaller nail, and I'm going to use a smaller tip, and you just basically do the same thing. You take your little gumdrop. There you go. You see the nails? You take your little gumdrop and glue it into place with your frosting. And you pipe your first ribbon around, making it into a cone at the very top. And I find I don't have to continue piping around the gumdrop to glue the petals in place. Try and keep your tip clean because it does make a cleaner petal. So now I have gone around 3 times. And you can leave that as a rosebud, or you can make a more closed rose and do the same thing. I'm going to put 5 more petals on. This is my second tier. And just keep piping around until you get the look that you are wanting to achieve. You can also make a cone, your base for your rose, with just piping. Take a round tip, a big round tip, and pipe a cone with frosting into the center of your nail. You want it, wide and tall, and you can pipe a rose off of that. But this is an easy way to practice because these candies kind of give you a good structure for your cone and your base, and it tastes good too.